All right, Jack, we are live.
Hello.
Hey, you got a new hat today.
All right.
All right, well, looks like we've got some people on right now. We'll give everybody a second to filter in. Let's see, we've got people joining. If you're joining us right now, thanks for getting on time. And why don't you leave a comment in the comment section below where you are, where you're from, and what where are you currently investing in real estate right now. So we'll give it probably another 30 seconds, and then we'll go ahead and get started. We are recording this, so this will be on our Facebook. So if you miss any portion of this, then you'll be able to go back through and watch the beginning of it. So again, my name's Curtis Roddy. I got Jack Zagunis. Jack's a regular here on our webinars, a marketing guru, a distressed debt guru. I mean, he's kind of the I don't know, the foreclosure guru. I don't know what like term should we coin you as?
Man, I will get to that later. But
wow.
First, I want to talk about this being the Independence Day week.
And oh boy,
we are going
to
declare independence and freedom over living paycheck to paycheck today. We are going to declare freedom and independence over too much month at the end of the money. Freedom from having my income dictate what I can and can't do. Freedom from not leaving an inheritance to my children, and freedom from not knowing when I can retire. So we're going to use this list.
Woo!
Yeah.
Man.
We're going to use this list to start changing our family trees.
I am jacked up, Jack. Oh man, yeah, you teased me last week with something like that, and man,
yes,
I gotta go buy some houses now. I need to get some more horizontal income. Awesome. Well, we got Paula here. Sheila's on. Thanks everybody. If you're here, let us know where you're from, where you're investing. We got Esther's investing in Rockwall. Esther, I just sold a house in Rockwall. I love Rockwall. That's an awesome area to invest. Got Paula investing in DFW. I'm in McKinney, so I've got a near and dear DFW real estate investing is near and dear to my heart. So Jackson Waco, a central Waco guru. We got people all over the country. So Hype Games, Flower Mound, Jeff's in Flower Mound. Jeff, I grew up in Flower Mound. And we got Dana, Bear County. Dana, thanks for coming back. You always add a lot of great comments and questions to the chat. Michelle Smith, Corpus Christi. That's an area I have not invested before. I'd love to learn more about that area. Blanca from Bear County. Awesome. Well, we got a lot of people joining us now. We got some comments going. I'm excited. So today we're going to talk about the post-bankruptcy alert list. We're going to kind of do two things. We have a lot of questions where people are asking us, what is post-bankruptcy alert list? Why would somebody, buy a property that's in bankruptcy? Stuff like that. And there's a little bit of confusion because typically people say bankrupt. If you're in bankruptcy, you've lost your bankruptcy protection. You've not lost it. You can't really be foreclosed on. So what we're actually doing with the post-bankruptcy alert list is tracking people as they come out of bankruptcy. Sorry, I got distracted. I got one of our colleagues asking us questions. So anyway, so we're talking about the post-bankruptcy list. I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about kind of the specifics. The exciting thing about post-bankruptcy alert is I got my first deal off of the post-bankruptcy alert list back in 2008, 2007.
Back at 10 a.m. this morning. No.
10 a.m. That was my first deal. I heard about this real estate investing thing, and I was like, that sounds cool. I got to start doing that. So, for people just getting into distressed debt and real estate investing, it's an awesome vehicle to do some subject to or mortgage assignments or get creative with your financing. So I'm pretty passionate about it. We got Jack. He's going to talk about marketing to it, and Jack's. Like I said, I've given Jack like 15 tiles today, so he's marketing guru is also one of them, I think.
All right.
If I haven't, there you are. So Jack, you want to introduce yourself and just for people who haven't talked to you or heard what you do, want to know what you do.
Yeah, I'm Jack, and I just work here for the Curtis Roddy's company, the Roddy Report, and I help people who get the list and any of our lists, and I help them become successful with it. Sometimes that means just explaining the list and how it works, and sometimes that means actually putting together a plan with them in order to get their first deal. So if you have any questions, just reach out to me.
Awesome. And I'm Curtis Roddy with Roddy's Foreclosure Listing Service. My dad started this company back in 1963. I've been involved in real estate investing since I was in diapers. Like I said, I bought my first property when I was in high school still, and so I've been doing this for a little bit. Lucky enough to work with some awesome people to help coach our customers. We've had some amazing members, and man, this is like kind of the most exciting part of my day is getting to like interact with customers and members and teach everybody some of these tips and tricks. So we'll dive in to post-bankruptcy alert. So just to get started, the post-bankruptcy alert list, it tracks property that is coming out of bankruptcy. So typically in the genesis of a foreclosure, there's kind of a couple stages. You've got your, let's say you go get your mortgage, you're making your payments on time, everything's going well. Then all of a sudden something happens for whatever reason, and you're not able to make payments on time, and that goes on for a couple months. You get some notice of defaults, stuff like that. A lot of times people will get posted for foreclosure, and then they'll file for bankruptcy, or vice versa, right? You'll file for bankruptcy protection because you're not able to make your payments. But either way, kind of the bankruptcy is the step that happens, I'd say 50 to 60% of the time before a foreclosure. So typically somebody gets posted for foreclosure, they'll talk with a lawyer, they'll go online and say, hey, how do I stop my foreclosure from happening? Bankruptcy is always, not always, is sometimes a good option. And so what happens in that is that you go into bankruptcy, courts are kind of, there's a protection put on your assets. So it doesn't really depend on or matter whether or not you're in Chapter 7 or 13 bankruptcy, but there is a stay of foreclosure that's associated with bankruptcy. And so, a lot of times similar, you go into bankruptcy, Chapter 13 kind of reorganizes that debt. Chapter 7, I believe, discharges it. We can talk a little bit more about that later, but a lot of times people go into bankruptcy and they're not able to afford bankruptcy. They're not able to keep, make the payments that are associated or that are, determined by the bankruptcy court, and they lose that bankruptcy protection. And so Jack's going to go later into, he's going to show you the report and the different leads on our post-bankruptcy alert list. But we'll, on our report, we actually put if there was a relief granted, which a relief means that you've essentially left bankruptcy in good standing, and then there's dismissal, which is the majority of the things that we're tracking coming out of bankruptcy. And dismissal means that the court has taken doesn't have or has taken away the protection that's associated with that. And so what we see is a lot of times, typically between 90 and 120 days after something is added to our post-bankruptcy alert list, that lead or that property ends up being on our foreclosure list. So Jackson talked about some of the benefits with marketing, but in a nutshell, that's our post-bankruptcy alert list. If you guys have questions about bankruptcy or post-bankruptcy, put them in the comments below. But Jack, I'll kind of let you take it away with, marketing to post-bankruptcy, how to, filter leads and maybe some of the different approaches, because like we said, this isn't a 21-day process like Texas foreclosures. This is a more long-term. It gives buyers the ability to use creative financing, or you can use it like you would on a normal 21-day thing, but your marketing approach is going to be a lot more different.
Great. Yeah. Awesome. So a typical distressed debt lead, you're going to be marketing, and the golden rule is 8 to 12, what they call touches. And a touch is just some way of communicating with them, even if they don't respond. And so that could be a phone call where you leave a voicemail. That could be a time you knock on their door and maybe leave a note. It could be a text message. It could be a letter that you send them. And so typically someone doesn't feel like they know you and they trust you enough or feel like you can get the job done until you've, what they call, contacted or touched the lead 8 to 12 times. And that's very hard to do in the pre-foreclosure world because they have about, 4 to 6 weeks or 3 to 6 weeks to, go ahead and get the deal done. But in a post-bankruptcy world where you have 90 to 120 days, maybe 180 days to get the deal done, that allows you to do the proper amount of marketing. So when you're looking at these leads, keep in mind, every time you send a letter, it's going to cost some money. Every time you call them, maybe using a calling service or yourself, it's going to cost you time and money. So don't just go after these leads one time. Make sure that you plan on going after them every 2 to 4 weeks, all the way up until you can probably cut them off at about the 180-day mark if you haven't heard from them.
Awesome. So let's talk about, why don't we, Jack, can you pull up the list? I'm going to show it to put it on the screen. Will you pull up the list and just start going over the post-bankruptcy alert list and maybe the different fields that we have on that?
Yeah. Can you see my screen?
We can now. You see Aaron Amuchasteghi's face right on the homepage.
Yep. And if you click these 3 bars right here, you can open up the sidebar. You can log in with your FLS ID and password. And then you're going to go to, I always go back over here to this side. You can see it down here at the bottom, but I always show people the same way. Products to our products. And then you pull up the post-bankruptcy alert, which is this 3rd circle right here. Now it's going to default to all the counties or the offices that you have. And Chris, this is the only one we have that's not by county. Can you just remind everyone why it's by office and not county?
Yeah, so there's some advantages really for our members for that. So typically most of our lists are covered by county. That's because we actually go to those county courthouses and we gather we don't get the post-bankruptcy. We get the foreclosure notices or the other notices from the county courthouse. With the post-bankruptcy alert, we're actually going to the bankruptcy courts. And so in Texas, there are like 5 or 6 main bankruptcy courts, and those cover multiple counties. So there's like the Northern District, which is going to be like Sherman, Grayson, Collin County. And then you've got the Dallas County area, the Dallas area that's going to have Dallas County plus the other rural counties that are adjacent to it. So it's really just that we can have a more efficient coverage and that we're actually able to give you leads for other counties, not just Dallas County.
Mm-hmm. Great. And so once you're on this list, you can hit search and it would just populate everything. If you change the filing date, just so we don't get as many results to the beginning of this month of when it was filed for either relief or dismissal, it'll pull up these records here. And let's just look at this first one right here. We'll go across the line. As you can see here, this is the borrower's name. So this is who you're going to contact right here. And this is the property address, 311 Charleston Drive. You've got the city and the zip code. Right here it says it's a resi, which is short for residential. And you have 1,648 square feet. This kind of lets you know if this is even a property that you're interested in. The year built, this home was built in 2006, so it's a newer home, and the tax value of it is $195,000. And you can see here they purchased this property in 2002, the February of 2007. So when I see that, I either think, oh wow, they're either the second owner of this property, or they're probably the first. It was built in 2006. It maybe, during those days they were building a lot of houses. It might have sat on the market for a few months, and then they were the first owners of this house. So that also tells me there's some equity in this property. Now, if someone bought a home, in 2019, you may decide to go after them, but you may decide, hey, they may not have a lot of equity built up so far in it. But just so you know, that's one thing I look for is when did the loan come out? Or when did they purchase the home? It doesn't say when the loan came out, but you can assume that they probably got a loan when they purchased the home.
Yeah. So and so what bankruptcy is actually doing is like discharging those assets that were protected at the time. So it's not just that property. It's going to be, now we don't put bankruptcy cases on a report that don't have real estate involved. So in all of the cases that are on here, there's going to be real estate involved. If not, then we're not going to put it on here. So there also might be other assets involved. this is going to be usually like the homesteaded property that was involved in the bankruptcy court. So, and Jack, if you go back, you can also, query all of this different stuff. So a lot of times, like whenever I'm working with a client or we're doing coaching on finding things, we'll say, hey, we only want properties that were, new leads that were filed after June 1st. Now, it doesn't mean the leads that are, from January, especially right now with all the freezes and the moratoriums and all the different things, it doesn't mean that those aren't good leads. It just means that we're trying to narrow it down to kind of the hottest leads at the time, right?
Yeah. So keep in mind, this is a 90 to 100 day, 120 day to 180 day lead funnel. So you may want to search for only those people who have been in bankruptcy for 90 to 120 days. So they're right at the end, right before they might possibly go into foreclosure again. That could be your strategy. Or you can start right at the beginning and just know that you're much less likely than you are on this lead than you would with the foreclosure lead to get them to say yes on the very first contact. This is going to be a longer term follow-up. So you may want all that runway of getting the newest leads. So.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Typically, somebody that's in foreclosure that their house is posted for foreclosure, they're going to lose it on July 7th. They're much more motivated to say, yes, help me, just like save me from this foreclosure. Let's work out a deal. Than somebody who just lost their bankruptcy protection, right? So typically, you're like Jack said, you got 3 to 6 months before the foreclosure actually happens. That can be a bad thing because people are not as motivated. But the good thing is there's a lot more time to work that deal. Whereas foreclosure, it's like you knock on the door, they say no, don't come back. You're probably not going to have enough time to go back. Whereas bankruptcy, if you're sending 2 or 3 postcards, you might get have a higher likelihood of a return call on that third touch, like Jack was talking about. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we had a question from Justin. He was asking about the legalities regarding selling a property during bankruptcy. So I'll preempt it with saying we're not lawyers. We've never been lawyers, but so we can't give legal advice. But as far as people typically cannot sell. It's more difficult to sell a property while you are in bankruptcy, right? Because the court's reorganizing those debts, and sometimes those debts are discharged, and if they are, then maybe they've paid that off, or there's something happening there. Typically, what happens is they reorganize those debts, and you come in, especially with a Chapter 13, which is about 30 or 40% of the time, you reorganize those debts and you come out of it, you still own all your assets. And then the reason that they will be foreclosed on is because the court said, hey, they're not making their payments or something like that. So typically most people aren't going to sell their property. I guess it's a long-winded answer to say people aren't typically selling properties in bankruptcy. It is possible. You just have to get court approval typically. But it typically happens right after bankruptcy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is not a bankruptcy list. So this is a post-bankruptcy list. And so these people are not currently in bankruptcy. Now you may be grabbing somebody from a couple months ago and they've gone back into bankruptcy. That might just be something that they chose to do later, which does happen. But typically, when they're on this list, that day that they're on is when they're lost their bankruptcy protection.
Correct. Yeah, that's correct. Mm-hmm. And so, and Ryan's just asking, why is equity important, right? So if you buy a house at the auction for $200,000, you're paying $200,000. Does it subtract out the equity? Jack, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of started doing this stuff in the days when there was a lot of people just underwater, and that may happen again in the future. I mean, all markets are cyclical like that, so it probably will. And so there may just be some properties that you just don't want because, they got a loan on it and they got it like 97% financing, and they've owned it for a year and the property hasn't appreciated and they don't have any equity, and so you can't make them a 70% offer without them bringing a huge chunk of change to the closing table. If you do creative financing and stuff like that, that still might not even be enough of equity for you. So most people's first option is to give them a cash offer, and that cash offer is usually, I'm not going to say what yours would be, but ours is usually 65 to 75% of value. And if you know that they owe 95% of what the property is worth, then there's just no way that entire option is off the table unless they have some sort of a piggy bank that they're going to bring to the closing table, which, never hurts to ask, but yeah, probably not going to happen.
No, I mean, and that's a good point. It doesn't hurt to ask. I've heard of people actually paying people to buy their house, right? So it happens. It just, again, you have to ask. And sometimes, most of the time they're going to say, no, that's ridiculous. But now, Jack alluded to creative financing, and that's the exciting part about this, right? The first house I bought, I think it only had 10% equity in it, but I bought it for just subject to the existing debt. They were behind $3,000, made that payment, we took over the loan, and I started making those payments. But the rental income covered that. And so really it was like, at the end of the day, I wasn't going to make, $20,000 right then, but 10 years later, when I sold the property, I had built up all the equity, and I didn't have to put anything much down to do that. So it's just a way to get creative. This is another lead type to get creative with, similar to like a vacant property or a divorce or people in bankruptcy. This is just one that might be a little bit more motivated than the people in the step before.
Yeah, people have asked us in the past, hey, we want something earlier than the pre-foreclosure list because, oftentimes when they get to that step, they've been contacted a lot of times. Maybe they're already under contract or their home is already listed with a realtor. Well, this could be an opportunity for you. These people are definitely in that step right before the foreclosure.
Awesome. So Jack, let's talk about, can you just maybe go through, you have a lot of members that you're coaching on marketing and just different strategies. Can you kind of just talk about maybe a good strategy for somebody that's buying this list for the first time? We've talked about what's on the list, but can you go through just what that strategy looked like and the timeline, and maybe also point out what's different in your marketing campaigns for post-bankruptcy as compared to a pre-foreclosure report?
Yeah, absolutely. So the post-bankruptcy, you're going to want to send the similar letter that you would or a postcard that you would with the pre-foreclosure list, which it's a bit annoying. It's a little bit tacky. It's, hey, sell your house now, fast, cash, third notice, sell it now, just something that grabs their attention. Even if they call you if they're angry, it's just good that they're, reaching out and calling you. Those most annoying ones are the ones that usually get the most calls back. So I would definitely put them on some sort of a campaign to be sending them mail. And a lot of mail houses, if you say, hey, I want to send this piece of mail out once every 2 months for the next 6 months, sometimes they can cut you a break on the pricing because they're going to print them all at the same time. So you can get that all in the hopper, all ready to go with your mail. And then to get to those 8 to 12 touches, a lot of times you need to do something else. So that could be door knocking. It could be leaving notes at the door when you go. It could be skip tracing this list and finding the phone numbers. Once you found the phone numbers, you have more options. You can leave ringless voicemails. You can text them. You can reach out and cold call them. Really, those are all the major ways to do it. If you're just going to stick with 1 or 2 of those, just make sure you have enough volume that you're hitting that mark. Talking to some of our members, they get a list of, say, 500 names, and they have enough marketing to do 500 postcards, and they send one to every single person. And then they come back to me and they say, hey, Jack, it didn't work. Like, well, it's better to do just 50 leads on the list and hit them all 10 times than it is to do all 500 once. So.
Yeah, I think that's really, just in the time that we've been coaching our members and real estate investing in general, like, I think a lot of people get excited. They send one postcard or one voicemail, or they knock on the door one time and leave something there, and then they never go back. And they're like, well, why didn't these people call me back? Well, you've got to realize that most people will send one postcard, but when that property owner sees your postcard or here's your voicemail or email or something, whatever your method of choice is, 3-4 times, they're much more likely to think, okay, hey, this guy's a serious investor. He's more likely to get this deal done. And at that point, they've seen your postcards, your marketing material. They know what you're going to do. They know, like, okay, he's trying to buy my house as a real estate investment. He can close in 7 days, that type of stuff.
And a lot of people, they don't want to have, even though they may get multiple offers, they just, it's embarrassing. It's hard on your heart to just have that many salespeople come through your home and make offers and take photos and bring their people through. And, you don't know if they're all going to be able to close or not. So they only want to really invite 1 to 3 people to their homes. There's exceptions to that. There's some people that just be like, yeah, we're showing everybody Saturday from 2 to 4. You can come by. I'm going to accept the best offer by the end of the day. That happens too. But a lot of people, they're not going to want to have a stream of people coming through. And so you have 2 chances by contacting them often. One is you're going to get brand recognition in front of them. And like, okay, it is time to do something. Let's call, that girl who keeps sending letters. She seems like she's the most legitimate buyer. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing it does too is oftentimes a lot of the people that I bought from or have sold me their home, they just get that call that morning from somebody, like it could be a family member or a friend, or they talk to their spouse or something that they just decide, you know what, that's it. And it's oftentimes, I need to do something about this house. And it's oftentimes the very next person that contacts them, even if that person has only contacted them one time. It happens a lot where there's like, that person gets the deal. Whereas the day before they were like swearing this off, say, I'll never sell my home in a million years. But just something changes that morning, and then it's the next person who contacts them, unless they.
That's a really good point, Jack. I mean, like I've bought, a good example would be I just bought a new truck like about a month ago, and it was like a 5-month process for me. Well, the dealerships would call because they saw my interest. And I was like, oh, I don't want to answer it. I didn't answer it. And then 4 months later, when it was time for me to actually buy, and I was really serious about it, it was the dealer who kept calling me over and over and over and emailing me over and over and over again. But he was my first call back, and I ended up buying the truck from him. So, not obviously the same thing, but very similar, like where it's, the more times that you call and you market to somebody, the more opportunities you have for them to say, oh, like that's the guy that he knows what he's doing. He's called me a bunch of times, and he's ready to go and make this deal happen. So I really like that approach. So, I mean, Jack, do you have a preferred, method? Do you say, is it a strict, I'm going to send 3 postcards and then 3 voicemails and then 3 emails, or do you, how do you coach people on how to develop that marketing campaign?
Yeah, the easiest thing to set up is a postcard campaign. So you should get that done like no matter what. And if you have the possibility to do it on your postcard, you should have a place for them to call or to click. So some sort of a freestanding website where they can look and check you out a little bit online. So I would get that just going no matter what. That's going to be the easiest thing. If you work, a job, and this is something you're doing on part-time, you can get those postcards out. You can, be sealing envelopes, in the evening and sending them out the next day. So I would get that going right away. If you have that extra time, the highest probability of getting a hold of somebody is to go to the door and knocking and leaving a note behind. And so I would do that if you have more time. And then beyond that, the 3 ways of communicating with somebody through their phone number, which is cold calling, doing a ringless voicemail, or texting, those all work great. They have a really high success rate, but they do take some time and some know-how of how to use those sites and how to get that done. What I tell people is do something, because a lot of people don't do anything. But there is no magic formula, Curtis, I don't think, as far as like, if you send 3 postcards and you send 6 ringless voicemails and you do 2 text messages, you're going to get 3 deals a week. Like, it just doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
But just go for that 8 to 12 mark. And if you know that you've been doing really well by doing 3 contacts, like try to get, or three touches per person, then try to get it up to 8, or try to get up to 5, or just try to get up to 4. Just try to do a little bit better than you were doing in the past and start to see some of those results. So.
And so when you get a call, like, so you've sent out your 5 postcards or whatever that magic number is for you, and you finally get that call, what are those conversations like? Because obviously it might be, it's going to be a different, for me at least, it's a different conversation. Somebody calls me and they're like, yeah, my house is on foreclosure, I'm going to lose it on Tuesday, versus, yeah, I just came out, I don't think I can afford this anymore. What options do you have? It's a different kind of just tone, really, and demeanor. what do you know, how do you suggest people approach that? Is it a quick, hey, I want to buy your house, or is it trying to set an appointment? What do you do?
Yeah, there has to be some urgency there, because there's definitely urgency for them. They need to know by the tone of your voice, or you can even say it somewhere, that it's okay with you if you don't buy the house. Like, you don't want to come across as needy. You're going to get about, in your head, you can say, I'm going to get about 12 of these calls today. I'll probably buy one this week. It's no big deal if it's this one or if it's a different one. So it's a little bit of that, I don't care, kind of, you can approach me if you want to attitude, but there needs to be some urgency, but because your time is valuable. So if you set an appointment with me, like, they have to be legitimately serious about selling their home, not just kicking tires and just seeing what you'd offer. If you just wanted to do that, you would just put a postcard in every mailbox. So ahead of time, and you may not be saying this to them, that they're getting out of bankruptcy. And so that, they have a problem that you're trying to fix, and they may come across on the phone like they don't need you, and you just kind of have to back off even more. But you wouldn't be approaching them if they didn't have some sort of a problem that you're trying to fix.
Yep. That's awesome. And so, one of the biggest benefits to buying but using a post-bankruptcy lead versus maybe a struck-off lead or a pre-foreclosure lead is the time and what that time affords you the ability to do. So when we talk to our members, it's kind of the hierarchy or kind of like, at auction, you have to have cash, right? Mm-hmm. Not a lot of people start off getting into real estate investing with $150,000 or $200,000 in cash to buy a property, right? So a lot of times that'll eliminate people that can do that. Pre-foreclosure, buying something before the auction. Again, you have to have cash or the ability to come up with, the options for buying that property are going to be you cure the default really quickly. That's pretty difficult to do, especially with some of the lenders and just how complicated it gets. Or B, a hard money transaction, which is going to typically be 30 to 20, at least 20 to 30% down payment with high interest. And again, a lot of people don't have that $40,000 when they get started. I didn't when I got started. I had a couple $1,000s for marketing and a couple $1,000s to put down, and I sent out a ton of postcards. My wife and I, we had just got married, and we were sitting at the kitchen table in our apartment, and we didn't have any of the cool postcard services, so I ordered 3,000 postcards from Postcard Mania. They were printed. I got super excited. They were delivered. And I just printed off all of the labels from the post-bankruptcy alert list, stuck them on each postcard, then gave it to my wife. She put a stamp on it. We put it in the mail. And so that's a long way to do it. We have a bunch of different services we can help. You can go to Padhawk to do it, or Jack is actually a member success coach, and he'll actually help set up and design that postcard. But anyways, and I got on a rabbit trail with that, but so postcard properties are in bankruptcy. The exciting part is you have the ability to finance them. A lot of times you can finance them conventionally. If you qualify for a conventional Fannie Mae loan, that's obviously going to be the least amount down. You get clean ownership, clean title. It's just a traditional transaction, right?
Yeah.
The other thing a lot of people will do, or a lot of people are interested in, and how they want to get into real estate investing, is going to be buying properties subject to the existing financing. We'll have another webinar where we talk just about subject to, but really what you're doing is you're saying, look, I'm going to buy this property. I'll pay off the back debts, and then you're going to keep that loan in place and deed that property to me. Obviously the upsides are avoid foreclosure. Typically, the owner gets some credit relief there, and then also the owner walks out with cash in their pocket. The benefit to you is there's no credit checks involved. There's little, the smallest amount of cash involved in that transaction. You get to inspect the property. It's on your timeline. So, for new investors, that's kind of where I try to push people. If they've got more time to market and go door knocking and going to the different appointments, that's always an awesome way to do it.
Yeah, this process of doing post bankruptcy is more of a crock pot than a microwave. It takes some time. You gotta develop a relationship. You gotta develop trust. You gotta realize that they may not accept your first offer because they've got time, and it's going to be some follow up. Maybe you do get that appointment on that first call. You show up, and maybe you are able to offer more because, like Curtis was saying, you can get this financed, and so you don't have to use cash or hard money. You can just use like a traditional financing model, and they don't accept your first offer. But as time goes on for them, you have to, a lot of people who are buying these houses, they're kind of sweating it when they're not buying a house, but you got to put yourself in their shoes. They're getting closer and closer to the doorsteps of foreclosure. And so they're the ones that need to come up with the deal faster, not you. You can just sit back, wait, do your follow-up, make sure that you're diligent about sending out your postcards, and then, further down the line, 3 to 6 months from now, if you're doing everything right, you should have deals falling, but it won't be right away, like is a possibility with the foreclosure list.
Yeah, I mean, just like, we talk about this all the time. What I love about foreclosures and the foreclosure auction is that I can go to the foreclosure auction and walk away that day with the deed, or knowing that a deed's coming in the mail to me for a property. This is going to be a little bit longer of a process. Again, it's, people that are just getting started. It's a great way to also learn all the different facets of real estate investing from the underwriting stage, right? So you're probably not underwriting as many properties because you're not having to go to the auction to buy them, but you are underwriting it. You're going to the door, you're talking to homeowners, you're kind of learning what that dialogue should be like. And then you're also getting to go through the property inspections. And so it also is a great way to get into wholesaling, right? So people that are in post bankruptcy are more likely to want to wholesale, or to be able to have the time to wholesale a property. So as a wholesaler, these might be leads that you also reach out to. And I know Jack's got a ton of experience with that as well.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, in wholesaling, sometimes the deed wasn't clear, though you thought it was clear, and it takes some time to get the affidavit of bearerships from the people. Sometimes your first buyer pulls out for whatever reason, and you need to get a second buyer. You don't have to fire sale it at that point, because they're not immediately going to lose the home on that first Tuesday of the month. So yay, you get to find somebody else, which isn't ideal, but then ahead of time, like, oh, don't trust that last guy for a quick deal that needs to be done fast.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you can. Sometimes I'm straight up honest with the homeowner. I'm like, hey, this is my price, and they say it's not going to work for us. And I say, what price do you need? And they say, I need this much money. I said, okay, well, what I want to do is I can put this under contract for you, and for 2 weeks, if I can't find an investor to buy it at a small profit for myself, then I don't lose anything and you don't lose anything. Do you want to try that? Maybe we can get your price. And the market was going up so fast, it did work sometimes, not every time, and they were cool with it, and so you can try the higher price. Doesn't work out, and maybe 2 months later they do call and they say, okay, let's take your original offer, which is the deal that you can get done.
Yep.
So you have more options.
Trevor Mouse, when we had the Arati Summit a couple of weeks ago, I think it was a couple of weeks. Yeah. Anyways, a couple of weeks ago, I had a kid since then. So, anyways, Trevor Mouse was on there talking about just marketing and trying to present homeowners with options. So this is one of the ways to do that, right? It's like, hey, I can give you a cash offer. I can give you an offer if you do seller financing or subject to. I can give you an offer if you work with me on the construction, or a wholesale offer, right? Just like Jack talked about. I've never thought about the wholesale offer where you say, hey, let me put it under contract for 2 weeks, and we'll see what happens. But that's a great way to say, if they come back and say, no, your cash offer is too low, well, then here's another, something to come back with to at least appear like you're negotiating.
Yeah, and a confused mind doesn't buy. So you may not want to throw out all those options at once. What I would just do is you throw out your favorite one as the investor, and wait for a firm no to happen. You tell them at the beginning, it's okay to tell me no, and then you find out what they need, and what they need may be totally different, and they may have a specific reason for needing that much money, and it totally makes sense. Be like, hey, I have good news. I just met this guy. He doesn't go out of market, so he won't be contacting you or calling you. He just has cash, and he just wants me to bring him deals. What if I show it to him? Would you, or this girl, would you be willing to do that? And they're going to say what they're going to say, but it doesn't hurt to ask. So
just another option. And if one thing that we do have is, as we get we have a lot of investors that we work with, obviously, a lot of wholesalers as well. They will send their wholesale deals to us. So if you're a wholesaler and you get a property wrapped up, send it to Jack. He'll analyze the deal. And we also have a list of people that said, hey, we want to get on this wholesale list. When you have a deal that's that's kind of past Jack's underwriting, we'll send it out. We'll look at it from an investment standpoint, and also send it out to our members to potentially buy that, and it gives you guys more leads. So that's a free service. We don't charge anything for that right now. Send Jack your leads or your wholesale deals, and also if you want to be on that list, go ahead and shoot Jack an email. Jack, how can people contact you?
Yeah, so my email is jack@flsonline.com. FLS is short for Foreclosure Listing Service. So if you're wondering what 3 letters I just said slurringly in a row, it was flsonline.com.
Awesome. And we've also talked today about marketing. Jack, I said earlier, is a marketing guru. He's set up a lot of marketing campaigns for our members and for other for people he's worked with as well. If you want help getting a marketing campaign started, you don't have to buy your postcards through us. You don't have to buy your leads through us. You just want some help on getting started, give Jack a call, send him an email, or go to our website and go to the chat. He'd be happy to help you, kind of at least get started in the right direction. So we're really, we're here to help you. We've got the data. We've got the best data in the country when it comes to distressed debt leads. We want you to learn how to use them, but if you're not ready to start using them, we still want to help you in your real estate investing journey. That's the most exciting part about this business for us. So, Jack, any final words or ideas?
I know some people had questions on the price, so I'd like to just show everyone the different prices of the list. And before we go, so you can only see the prices if you don't have the list, so I have to log out. And this is how you get the list. Order now. Post-bankruptcy alert. Wow, ready to make some money. And you pick your county, and each county has a different price. And so, we'll just pick the most expensive one, the package. So these are the 3 prices you can see, and it will renew every month until you cancel. You can cancel online at any time. And so that's probably the most expensive list. And then, if you just pick a single county, you're probably going to come up with some less expensive prices, but, not as many leads. So.
Yeah, and one thing to mention here is we have county there. We need to change that to say bankruptcy office or bankruptcy court. That's the San Antonio bankruptcy court, the Dallas or Sherman bankruptcy court, whatever's there. If you click on the hamburger menu up at the very top left, and go to the product descriptions, Jack, I just want to show everybody where they can find which counties each court covers. So go down to post-bankruptcy alert list. Yep. And scroll down a little bit. I hope it's there. Yeah. So here is a list of all of the different filing offices and which counties they cover. So if you say, hey, I really want Bastrop County, you just go here and you say, okay, Austin filing office has that. It also has Travis Williamson, Burnett, Blanco, Burleson. I'm not going to say all those, but you got a lot of other counties that come with that. So typically, a Dallas County pre-foreclosure list is going to be $64, or you can get the San Antonio pre-foreclosure list that has Bear, Comal, or not pre-foreclosure list. Man, Jack, I've got a baby that's keeping me up all night. The San Antonio filing list. That's going to have Bear, Comal, Guadalupe, all those different counties associated with it as well. So, and it's actually going to have all of the pre-foreclosure, gosh, I keep saying it, post-bankruptcy alert list filings for the past 3 or 4 years. So it's not just 1 month or 3 months worth of leads. It's going to be all the leads for the past at least 24 months. So that's kind of the exciting thing is there's really a lot you can do with it. I like it because you can get creative with it, creative with the financing, creative with the marketing. I mean, people that were on this list a year ago, they might not have lost their property in foreclosure. They might be, at some point they were, and now we're in this COVID time where people might be more likely to be looking for an offer now. So go back a year and look at that stuff. So, Jack, anything else?
Yeah, just remember that you don't have any problem. Like you're the investor, you're the one sitting back with tons of cash, if not you are, and you don't need to buy any house this week at all. And so these people, when you contact them, just have that confidence, that confidence inside you, and know that as time ticks on, things get tougher for them. And as time ticks on, nothing changes in your situation at all. And so, yeah, so just take your time and go slow on these leads. And that's what I would do.
Awesome, Jack. Well, thanks everybody for joining us today. If you have questions, if you're watching this after the live stream, you can put them in the comments below. If you have questions that we didn't answer, put them in the comments. Jack will make sure he gets to them. And as always, don't pay retail for real estate. Thanks, guys.
All right. Take care.